A warm welcome once more to the Ref Show. We have Brian Deane with Keith Hackett on the show this week. We're indebted yet again to the manager of Chelsea for setting our agenda and almost writing the script for the programme. We ask as well, in relation to Chelsea and Jose Mourinho, why is this ill feeling towards referees being allowed to fester like this, and could it be avoided? Plus the rights and wrongs of some big penalty calls over the weekend. But let's start, Brian, with one of your former clubs. I think they number 9 at home and abroad. Leicester City, riding high, 3rd in the Premier League. You scored, if my research is right, 19 goals in 52 appearances for the Foxes, which ain't bad. But what about this fella, Jamie Vardy, scoring in 8 successive Premier League games?
You know, I think it's fantastic. I think it's a breath of fresh air for the Premier League. You know, we've been too much in the past. I think we've looked at foreign players coming in, and you know, all of a sudden you've got Jamie Vardy from Sheffield, Stocksbridge Steels coming in, and he's lit the place up. It really is. It's fantastic for the league, I think.
Something must have gone wrong at your club, Sheffield Wednesday, some years ago, when a certain 16-year-old was rejected by the Owls, Mr. Vardy, Master Vardy.
I think when you look at the number of youngsters who pass through professional clubs, it's got to be a worry, because the majority of them fail. And I don't think the clubs spend enough time preparing those children who they consider not to have made it. Someone's got to sit down and make a judgment, tick or a cross that says you proceed on or you go. And all too often, it's the ones that get that moving on that actually come to the fore.
Full marks to him for not letting that get him down and taking the rejections and working his way up. That's terrific. Let's go with Leicester's game because fortune often favours an informed club, and they got a 3-2 victory at West Brom, which was not without controversy, Keith. Anthony Taylor was in the middle there.
Yeah, I think that there's an inconsistency in Anthony. I think sometimes the guys go through, they have a series of 2 or 3 good games, and then they start to rest on the laurels. And I think this is true of this particular referee. He had an off day, in my opinion. 2
clear penalty calls.
I mean,
Tony Pulis very upset.
Yeah, he's every right to be. You know, I mean, in fairness, Pulis is not a public criticiser of referees. On this occasion, I think he had great foundation. And let's hope Taylor, it's a one-off and a rarity to have an indifferent game.
One of these was early on. It was grappling from a corner, I think, and then later Robert Huth steamroller through a player and he took him right out.
Like American football, that was.
Yeah, you have to say, you know, I mean, the referee's in a good position to judge it as well. So I can't offer him advice about being in the wrong position, but it's all about awareness, concentration, and being prepared that those things will happen inside the penalty area, and then not to ignore them.
But yet again, Leicester triumph over adversity, their own adversity, and going behind yet again and winning.
Yeah. It's just the mentality down there now. You know, they know that they've got the kind of players who can turn it around. They've got so much pace throughout that team.
Penalty calls not given in that game. 2 given in the Manchester City-Norwich game. 2-1 to the home team there. Robert Madley was in charge. 2 correct calls, but you've got a little query over the first of these, which was crucial. Martin was sent off for handling and preventing a goal to keeping it out of the Norwich net.
I think we you know, at the very highest level, we've got to consider the entertainment value, and ideally, I think part of the role of the referee is if he manages well, the players stay on. And I think that here was an opportunity. He is proving to be a good referee, Robert Madley. I do like him. If he was quick enough up here, he would have seen that the goalkeeper definitely penalised.
He fouled somebody first, which should have been a penalty.
All he's got to do is blow for the free kick. He can caution the goalkeeper if he feels it's a cautionable offence.
It was just inside. It was a penalty, I think.
But it was a penalty.
Yeah.
But what he's done is he's allowed it to go on, and then he's faced with the decision. He's got to send the player off because it's a deliberate handball.
He could have avoided.
No. In law, he's correct, but in practice, he could have acted quickly on the first one and kept the player on.
Okay. We're going to take a player's view now of Jose Mourinho and what he's saying. Is he behaving like a spoilt brat even? Is that too strong to say? Because he, you know, this is a man who's used to winning. He's now losing consistently, doesn't appear to know how to handle losing, Brian, in terms of his comments and blaming other people. But
I mean, you know, I've spoken to people and they've said, look, you know, they think that he's trying to get himself sacked because...
Is that what you believe?
Well, I kind of look at it and I think he's being controversial. You know, his owner is somebody who doesn't court that kind of controversy. You've got... you know, bringing players off after you've put them on as a substitute after 28 minutes and humiliating them. You know, you've got your best player from last season who is publicly criticised. I think he's alienating himself, and that you can ask the questions why he's doing that. But for me, you know, it's a time where you put down the shutters, you protect your team, you protect your squad, and I feel like he's doing it all on his own.
Everybody's to blame bar himself and the players, but privately he's too clever a guy to believe all of that, surely.
Well, that's why I've said, and people have said, you know, perhaps he's trying to get himself sacked. He's trying to create that much out there that people say, well, he's got to go.
That suggests he thinks the job's irretrievable for him, that relationships may have broken down to the point where they can't be resurrected. Is that what you're thinking?
I think personally that the pressure needs to be taken off him. And I think in the past, if you look at going back to Chelsea in his early days, you had Kenyon in there who was close to him and could in fact have that debate away from the grass, the green bit, probably just go out and have a meal and just get over the problem in the way that David Deane, in the initial years of Arsene Wenger, had that close working relationship. And I think it seems to me that he feels insular, he's on his own, you know, and there's confusion.
But hasn't he created that himself? I mean, he's been Mr. Chelsea, basically. We don't hear about anybody else at Chelsea apart from Jose and Roman Abramovich.
You never hear from. No. So you think it suits him to be Mr. Chelsea. And let's have a look at the nuts and bolts briefly of this 3-1 home defeat to Liverpool. Mark Clattenburg was in charge. First of all, the question of time, because it was commented on TV, live coverage of the game. There were comments that too much time was added on. Well, in fact, 2 minutes was added on, but Chelsea scored, Liverpool scored their equaliser in the 3rd minute of first half stoppage time. How do you react to that criticism?
Well, it's that simple. The laws of the game, law 5, sole timekeeper of the game is the referee. So we cannot criticise the referee because he's the guy that's carrying the watch that determines the amount of added time. And remember that there can be added time within added time, if you like. If there's a stoppage in that 2 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever it is, he adds it on. So I think that to make that type of comment is a bit of a nonsense. I can recall when manager of the PGMOL, people writing in and saying he's played 5 seconds short because of the clock on the TV. We don't have clocks in the stadiums. They stop at 90 minutes for that particular reason. So I think that public comment is a nonsense.
That might be nitpicking. What about Lucas? Did seem to me he was persistently fouling. He emerges with just a 1 yellow card. Were you surprised, Brian, that he didn't get a second?
I was, but at the same time, I think yellow cards sometimes are given out for nothing. So, you know, it kind of evens itself up. I don't like to see, you know, a game with so much time left that you've got 10 against 11 unless it's a horrific challenge. I think he probably was right on the limit at the time. So
there's some nodding glances your way from Keith here.
Well, I think that when we're talking about the Premier League, we're talking about entertainment. We're paying spectators paying lots of money. We know against that the referee's got to apply the laws of the game. The way that I used to coach the referees was quite simple. I used to say, look, because of the amount of yellow cards, mandatory yellow cards that were coming into the game, they could be handed out like confetti. So you could have a red card on 2 technical offences, a guy encroaching or a small tattle. So my view was that that second yellow has to be orange, more closer to a red and saleable. And I think it would have been very easy for Mark Clattenburg to have issued a second yellow card. He's probably thinking, no, I should have done, given the comments after. He wanted to take a game that was potentially controversial because of Mourinho's antics off the field, and he wanted to get through this with 2 teams of 11 players.
Thank you for your company, but do rejoin us because there's a whole load more Premier League action to come and be debated, including some of the antics and the comments of the Chelsea manager and players. See you then.